Hey guys, October 2nd, 2025, here with your after hours recap. So the momentum trade is still alive and well. We can just kind of visualize that with these nuclear and quantum stocks. So IONQ, I did go ahead and take off the last of my position today at 65 bucks as soon as we were taking out prior day high effectively. I actually did think that this could have made for a decent long today effectively as a bounce off of the 20 simple moving average. Rigetti at a new high. The momentum trade, like I said, alive and well. You also had a nice move in OKLO. So the nuclear names were, kind of turning back around. I also still am sitting in CCJ. It's a little bit slow. I would like to see this thing actually pushing out, but it's, not necessarily moving like in OKLO. But, what can I do? Just got to kind of sit there. Unfortunately, I was a victim in the Tesla move today. I did a terrible job of peeling any into this strength. But instead, I just sat there and sat there and sat there and sat there some more. And obviously, I'm bullish the stock, and I've been in it since 350 bucks, and I'm up 130 bucks a share. And you're smelling the roses. And I didn't peel into this strength. But little did I know that this thing was going to take out yesterday's low. At which point, I had no choice but to close another little piece of my position. I am down to half of my original shares. And no matter how much I've got love for a particular stock, I have to respect price action. And if we're going to go ahead and give us a disgusting bearish engulfing on a pickup in volume, I need to make sure that I've paid myself at least on the way up on this breakout. Unfortunately, it wasn't 40 points higher. Yes, it was a pretty big give back on my part from those highs, but it just kind of is what it is. I'm really not trying to stress it too much. It's still a fantastic trade, no matter the outcome. And as long as we stay above the 20 simple moving average from here, I will just continue to hold the last of my shares. But obviously, it sucked, right? It's like watching this thing come back 40 bucks from the highs is never fun. And, it's like the old adage where it's like you buy the rumor, sell the news. The rumor was their delivery numbers would be great. Well, sure enough, the delivery numbers were great. And then this thing gets an absolute colonoscopy. So not fun, but it is what it is. And, we just move on with our life. I am a little bit frustrated because I've tried in the last few days Palantir, and I talked about this one on recap a few days ago. And I've been taking, a lot of paper cuts recently. And it's something that I'm obviously aware of, and I know that I've been taking these paper cuts, and I'm trading smaller size right now. A lot of my newer positions are all 5% positions, right? They're not 10 or 15 or 20% positions in my portfolio, just because I'm kind of dealing with a little bit of chop. But anyway, I go to take Palantir, and then, I go ahead and get stopped out at low of day a few days ago, only to see it find support at the rising 10 and then continue from there. So a little bit frustrating that I didn't have enough patience, even with smaller size, to wait for it to bounce on the 10. I just cut it as soon as low of days came, unfortunately. So I sold my shares here after buying them up here. Very frustrating. That's just the reality of trading sometimes. Then today, I go to try and get myself into MP, which is a name that I once owned before, from 64 bucks on 9.9. Did a nice job trimming some into the strength on 9.25. Cut the last of my position on 9.26. Okay, fine. I try to then get myself resituated in this thing today, and what happens? I get stopped at low of day. I'm being patient literally for like 10 minutes, and I'm over here thinking, okay, if this thing can hold, green on the day, I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to hold it. Well, the next 5-minute bar, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to cut it. So I cut it, right? It's a 5% position. I cut it. I eat my loss. Well, guess what? We all could see how this thing closed for the rest of the day. So I'm dealing with a little bit of that. And so I'm a little frustrated and that these things are happening to me on smaller size, which is fine, right? Either I'm not rebuying them, which sucks, or I'm just not being patient enough, right? I could have waited for this thing to break, maybe retest that, red to green, and then maybe stay heavy, and then I could have cut it, 30 cents lower, and I would still be in the trade. Hindsight's 2020, of course. I ended up taking my small lump and then moving on with my life. But on the bright side, I did buy Rocket Lab today, and I bought this on a simple 5-minute opening range break. So I bought this really well, and then all of a sudden, this is what it does all day. Well, it is helpful when you've got a name like ASTS also making a new all-time high. It is also helpful when you have a name like KTOS, making a new all-time high, which was just a beautiful bull flag in here. And then it's also helpful when you have a name like AVAV making a new all-time high. So stocks within the theme are working. Aerospace and defense is working. That's good to see. I finally, I took a little lump on Rocket Lab yesterday. No big deal. I got back in it today. Finally, nice to see it work. So we'll see kind of what happens with Rocket Lab going forward, or if they decide to come for my shares again before, launching this thing into orbit. I did like AMD yesterday, over 165 bucks. I should have, hindsight's 2020, gotten involved when this thing started to turn back up towards the end of day. I did not. I thought over 165 looked pretty fantastic and back above the 50 simple moving average. Of course, they gap it above that level. I mean, of course. And then we're opening up at about 168, almost 169 bucks. So I leave it alone altogether. Obviously, you want something at 165. It closes basically at 170. A bit of a pain in the ass to see it work without you. Snowflake, another one that I talked about yesterday, wanting it over that $132 or $232 level, right over this day's high, which is $231.94, and I just see this as a little low cheat setup. And today they just gap it up, and congratulations to the Snowflake longs right through that 232 level. Absolutely beautiful. And really, it just continues to be a pretty good market. Right, First Solar is another stock that they just continue to grind higher. I mean, I think I've been watching this stock all the way since the beginning of September, have not been able to find my way in. I really just hate channeling charts. I like some kind of a flat pivot. I like some kind of a high type flag. I like some kind of an undercut and rally. And nope, they're just grinding this one higher along the 10 and the 20. Very annoying to try and get situated in, so I have not bought it. But solars continue to act well. Healthcare stocks continue to act well. Biotechs continue to act well. Aerospace and defense continues to act well. A little bit of a rest day for gold and silver. It is trading more like a momentum theme than some kind of a flight to safety. Crypto stocks are back at it with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin, 3,000-4,000 bucks away from an all-time high. I mean, just awesome stuff going on here. Quantum back at it. The nuclear theme is back at it, with OKLO absolutely flying. So there's just a lot. I mean, Apple looks like a picture-perfect high-type flag near the highs. So there's just really nothing to be super negative about. Obviously, being in a Tesla kind of sucked and hurt, but even that chart still looks fine, right? You get a big 130-point move, from the breakout level. There being some people there to take profits, right? Buy the rumor, sell the news. The news was definitely sold. And there's not a whole lot, that can be done about that. It just is what it is. I did buy ALAB yesterday. I talked about this, I believe, on the recap, but I did buy this thing at about 192 bucks. Really nice to see this thing, push out, and I think I'm up, almost 9% on the position. So that's very nice that it's working, right? It made up for a little bit of the lump that I took in Tesla today. Rocket Lab, kind of helped alleviate some of the lump that I took in Rocket Lab. And like I said, I did close the last of my IONQ today at 65 bucks. 61 and a half yesterday, 65 and change today from a $74 short. Fantastic, about as lucky as I could have gotten really on that short, considering how strong things have been in this market. But just really a clean little pullback to the 20. Didn't want to argue with it anymore, right? 4 or 5 down days in a row. It's the most you're really going to ask for in this market. It's really the most, you can expect in this environment. Things continue to act strong. And, as it relates to Tesla, if it can just go ahead and start to stay above this, really $420 and just create another little high type flag, a 3 weeks tight, I would be happy to add more to that position over the next coming few weeks if we can set up properly. But ultimately, banks take a little bit of a breather. There are some stocks that maybe aren't acting well. The food stocks continue to act poor. Like I said, the banks take a little bit of a breather, which probably some of the weakness that we were seeing in the S&P 500 this morning, and just a little bit of profit taking, right? I don't want to make a little bit of profit taking seem like there's something incredibly wrong with the market. There was, a name that I thought Futu had been looking pretty good. But Futu was one of those where big pickup in volume, and they just kind of destroyed this one today. And I was talking to guys in the room, and it's like, we're looking at this thing right at the 20, and it's like, hey, Ariel, would you buy some off the 20 as a bounce? And to which I said, no, let it bounce, let it, start to turn back up and give you that 620 setup, or as Lance might call it, the right side of the V, and then you can then risk off those lows, right? If you just try to kind of buy a falling knife, well, yeah, it might bounce for 5 minutes, or it could just keep going lower, and all of a sudden you end up in a scenario where you're instantly red, and then maybe you're adding a little bit more, and then maybe you're adding a little bit more, and that's how you get a really small loss, gets super ugly, and it kind of compounds the problem of just, instead of just waiting for it to turn back up. So, kind of a catch-22 when you're trying to catch a falling knife. So I personally just wait for things to turn back up, let the moving averages on a smaller time frame start to turn back up, buy it, risk off those lows. A whole lot easier. You know exactly where you're going to leave if you're wrong. But ultimately, I thought the market performed really well. We can kind of look at a few of these that, crushed it today. USAR and another big push in after hours, didn't even realize that, but you had this really big base. I know some people in the room are in this thing from like $14. That's amazing. Obviously a pretty big breakout there. Another one of these names, Pony, is making a new high. Congratulations to those people who are sitting in Pony. This thing has just been awesome since 15 and a half. What else has been holding in there? Yeah, MFH, I don't even know what the heck is going on here, but this thing is acting, really well. SOUN was on our radar as well going into today. Another one on pickup in volume. They're just accumulating the hell out of these things. And this one kind of looks like, you make this big move up, you digest for several months, and then you start to turn up the right-hand side of the base, and then you kind of go on this, parabolic run, and then same thing. You just pull back, you start to build out the right-hand side of the base, and it kind of looks like, we might be looking at mid-20s here pretty soon for a name like that. CRISPR, another one, just awesome to see, and I'm assuming with a CRISPR, you'll probably see a name like NTLA also working. Yep, sure enough. So it's, these names are good. Like I already mentioned, Rocket Lab was good, NBIS closing at highs. Really mostly the stocks that are like the picks and shovels for the AI theme, semiconductors, data center build out names, even an APLD, although it didn't close the best, pushed out really nicely, right? Your iron continues to hang in there, and your futuristic stuff, your drones, Joby, another one over $17 was really nice today. Hut, another really nice day today. So, what's wrong with these things? They come back, they check into the 20, they turn right back around. The market's on fire, really. So if you're part of the data center, you're part of the, charging the data centers, powering the future, nuclear, quantum, drones, scientific stuff, right? We talked about KTOS being, anything futuristic, that you can't necessarily wrap your mind around today. And if you're unprofitable still, almost even better, or very low profit for that matter, they just seem to be absolutely running. So NNE looks like it's trying to turn up with OKLO, and OKLO had a very nice day today. InnoData continues to be an absolute monster from this little flat-based breakout. $50 now, almost 90. That's incredible. APLD was one I was talking about. That is just incredible. The nuclear stocks, LEU, let's just, this thing just keeps pumping higher and higher and higher off of a super beautiful setup around $208. Just fantastic. ALAB is one I already mentioned I had. NXT, just continues out of this little flat base. I kind of had a feeling this would do this, break out of this little flat base and just kind of continue grinding. Look no further than Hood, your market leader, just continuing to be absolutely awesome. Sunrun with a massive short float. Also looks like this thing's trying to go higher. So really just simply put, the market's amazing. I don't want to say the market's amazing and then hopefully, or unfortunately I'd be topping it, but I'm just saying what it is. There is an insane amount of momentum out there. And Apple's so close to an all-time highs. I don't necessarily think Tesla's going away. Nvidia's working well. Coinbase is over the 50-day. AMD's back over the 50-day. Bitcoin's $4,000 from all-time highs. Ethereum's not too far from an all-time high. Gold and silver are still acting well despite a little bit of a pullback today. What can you really say? let's not complain too much about, making tons of money in this super easy environment. You kind of just have to ride the wave until more red flags appear, until, you start to really see failed breakouts. But if we don't see failed breakouts, then you just have to let things work, because it's a great market. I mean, it just is what it is until it isn't. And, we'll kind of keep riding the wave and trying to get positioned in names so long as they're pushing higher. Yes, I've been dealing with some chop, but I have been sizing things down. I've been noticing myself kind of spinning my wheels, just getting stopped out of stupid stuff, maybe taking too many trades, being a little bit greedy on the short side. I had a beautiful 348 short on MSTR. I watched it go all the way sub 300. I did nothing. And then I just watched it squeeze back up on me only to get stopped out of that position, or really effectively give back all the gains that I've had on that position. Did something similar with SNDK at about 106, watched it go to 92, did nothing, watched it squeeze back up, and then stopped me out for red. So that's no fun. It's really only been IONQ that I've had some success on the short side on, and I actually covered that one to perfection. So I'm very happy about that one. But otherwise, it's just kind of been, own what you have. A lot of the names that I do have are working well. It's nice to see ALAB, push up as much as it did today. It's nice to see ARC be an absolute monster. I own this thing from 59 bucks. This thing is fantastic. CCJ hopefully will turn up. I do own GEV. It didn't close the best, but I am still slightly green on it from yesterday's entry. NVIDIA continues to act really well from my entry, but again, we'll see if it takes out, today's lows tomorrow, where I'd have to trim. PDD, again, just continues to grind up to 20. I won't do anything with it. Rocket Lab, absolutely fantastic today, and Tesla. So, it's just trying to take things one day at a time and get positioned, in pieces, and, try to not get stopped out of smaller positions, and, just widen out the stop just a touch, because they just seem to come for my stop and then they turn it right back around. So it's not like I'm not focused on the right stuff. It's just that, my timing is a little bit off. So I'm going to try and clean that up. And hopefully you guys all had a really nice trading day today. Tomorrow, hopefully you guys, keep a clean end of the week. And we will see you guys all bright and early in the morning. Cheers.